Good morning, my name is Josh from CyclonesOZ, and today we're going to be taking a look at a couple of things around the nation. First off, a tropical cyclone in the north, then we're going to be taking a look at a potential cyclone across Western Australia and some heavy rainfall across Western Australia's interior. So for March 6, 2024, here is your weather forecast nationwide. If you are brand new to the channel, and please consider subscribing and also leave a like on the video while you're at it. And give me a detailed weather report for your location in the comments section down below. We're going to start things off with the Coral Sea situation. We're expecting a tropical low to develop out of a monsoon trough sometime later this week. Extensive amounts of rainfall are expected for the remainder of this week into Saturday and Sunday as well for parts of far northern Queensland, especially around the Cairns and the Mosman Daintree rainforest sort of area. The strengthening monsoon trough over the Gulf of Carpentaria is expected to fire at least one tropical low out next weekend, with the possibility for more, and one of these lows has the potential to become a tropical cyclone, which we're going to get to now in a more detailed forecast. Now, I did say there's the potential for not just one but multiple tropical lows. That future is very uncertain for all of those systems, but there are some forecast models daring to suggest that a lot of tropical lows are possible from this system. We're going to start using the Access G3 model, then we're going to switch things over to the Eastern Relief model for the more longer range and the more cyclone forecast focus part. But yeah, you can see right now we do have that sort of westerly flow or easterly flow coming out of the east here across most of the Coral Sea, and that's driving rainfall totals up across today and then into tomorrow for parts of coastal northern Queensland, especially from locations around Townsville up to Lockhart River. Extensive amounts of rainfall are possible over the coming couple of days. It's going to be Thursday evening when the rainfall really does pick up for these locations here. For locations around Townsville, it will start Thursday morning, and then as you get further up the coast, it will become Thursday evening and then into Friday morning, easing out of areas around Bowen and Mackay and more sort of central Queensland down here, which are expecting a couple of showers anywhere north of Bundaberg up towards Townsville over the coming couple of days. In fact, we could take a look at that right now. I believe up to 15 to 25 millimetres expected for the coastal parts from Bundaberg up towards Townsville, with some locations expecting just a little bit more, maybe up towards 50 millimetres over the next 5 days, and a similar amount of rainfall over the next 10 days. As you get further up the coast, then rainfall does start to increase. But yeah, starting things off with the rainfall up further north, you can see rainfall really expected to enhance itself Friday evening and then into Saturday morning. Saturday, we're likely to be seeing a lot of places between Cairns and Cooktown pick up to about 150 to 200 millimetres. That's definitely going to be the wettest day until these tropical lows set themselves up offshore, and the bulk of the rainfall will be Saturday morning until about Saturday early afternoon, when it should slowly start to ease out of this area and contract further north, which is good news here because some of this rainfall is likely to be flooding. By the looks of things, Sunday we do start to see a little bit of rainfall come ashore as well. The forecast models really just don't want to cooperate with me this morning, hence why this video is quite late and I sound frustrated. But you can see as we get into Sunday, the rainfall might pick up again in the early morning hours before what looks to be easing off quite a bit in the evening, and sort of easing off for good throughout Monday, when it should slowly start to ease out of Cairns. And then you can see the tropical low starting to develop further north, and that's going to pull the rainfall accumulation, the extreme rainfall accumulations, up further north. So over the next 5 days, we can be expecting rainfall totals around the Cairns, Cooktown, Ravenshoe, Cardwell, Innisfail area to be around 200 to 300 millimetres. It's a very similar forecast to what we've been looking at over the past couple of days, and I know this might sound repetitive, but once again, we're just ironing out the details as they come day by day. But 200 to 300 millimetres expected. The bulk of that will be Friday and Saturday and into Sunday morning, and then the heaviest rainfall will be located around Port Douglas, which again I do believe to be verifiable as what the models are looking at right now, and we could be seeing 420, maybe 450 millimetres here. So quite a bit of rainfall over the next 5 days, averaging 100 millimetres a day. But as I said, Saturday the chance of 200 to 300 millimetres for some locations, with widespread above 100 millimetres. That's kind of the go ahead for what we are expecting, especially around Port Douglas and so forth, which will be the wettest spot. We'll switch things over to the rainfall forecast. Now we're going to take a look at the Eastern Relief forecast, because it's generally a more reliable model when you're looking at long range cyclone forecasts compared to the Access G3 model rather. You can tell it's very early in the morning. I'm struggling here. As we get through Tuesday and Wednesday, this monsoon trough really does try and develop into a defined tropical low. If we cross-examine that with the Access G3 model, you can see already a defined tropical low starting to develop here, and a second one up in the Gulf of Carpentaria. So they've got a really active monsoon, the Access G3 model, but you can see the eastern WF being more conservative, spinning up that tropical low Thursday, the 14th of March, and then crawling it down the coastline. Now, the future is very uncertain with this tropical low. However, what is giving me greater confidence in saying that this is going to happen, to a degree, to put this in the title of the video, saying that there is a tropical low expected now for Queensland, which could house some intense rainfall and maybe even some damaging winds as well, is the fact that it's just been so consistent on the forecast models now for the past 4 days. In a very similar part of Australia, Gulf of Carpentaria, Cape York Peninsula, and the very northwestern extremities of the Coral Sea, this is where we're expecting this tropical low, and it's been a very similar forecast for the past 5 days. So again, I'm having a very good amount of confidence in saying that this is going to happen, and this is what's actually going to be on the forecast, and it's reciprocated amongst the other major forecast models as well. Now, just before we switch to another part of this video, I would like to briefly bring up what the Access G3 model is doing that makes it quite an unreliable model by Friday. I mean, look at this. It's got a tropical low here and a tropical low here. They're about 150 kilometers away from each other. That's just some ridiculous stuff. I haven't seen this before in the Access G3 model, and this is impossible because of an effect called the Fujiwara effect. These lows would just end up combining into each other, and they wouldn't end up being individual tropical lows, and you can sort of see that happen later on. So it's a great example of the Fujiwara effect on the forecast models, where the two tropical lows dance around each other and then combine, but it's a terrible example of a model doing a good job with a forecast, because it really isn't doing a good job with a forecast at all. Now, just before we switch over to the West Australian situation, over the next 10 days, quite a lot more rainfall is expected up in the further northern reaches of the Cape York Peninsula, especially north of Lockhart River. Thursday Island itself, probably around 500 millimetres of rainfall over the next 10 days, which will actually be a 5 to 10 day sort of period where they see 400 millimetres. So a lot of rainfall in a short period of time there. And you can see if these tropical lows get themselves going, they're going to have a lot of rainfall as well. 900 millimetres of rain just offshore, and that's concerning because that will dump a lot of rainfall onshore. But yeah, Bowen, Townsville themselves expecting 100 millimetres up towards Innisfail, Lucinda and Cardwell. You're sort of looking at 150 millimetres. Innisfail and Tarlee, 250 millimetres. Cairns itself looks like they've got a bit of a rain dome happening around them, maybe about 80 to 100 millimetres. That will likely be a little bit higher. And then Port Douglas themselves expecting about 500 millimetres from this event, so certainly the risk of flooding is there. Now, for a look at the tropical cyclone expected to develop around the Cocos-Keeling Islands, it's now tropical low 08U, and it has a 30% chance of tropical cyclone genesis. It's taking its merry time. It's only expected to really meander around the Cocos-Keeling Islands over the next 10 days. Now, the forecast track for this system is still relatively uncertain, but there's a good chance that this does become a Category 1 strength tropical cyclone. And we will take a look at that now. You can see on the satellite imagery, this is where the centre of the storm is right now. It's got some very disorganised convection happening around it, so it does not look like a healthy system at all, and it definitely is struggling in the fate of what looks to be some very high wind shear levels, that's for sure. So a struggling system. It's delivering quite a lot of thunderstorm activity to the Cocos Islands, but it doesn't really look like it's got any intention of getting herself going just now. Now, if it does get named as a tropical cyclone, it's going to pick up the name of Megan if it does so in the Australian region. If it does so in the Southwest Indian Ocean, it's going to get, I believe, the S name. I'm not sure what that is off the top of my head, but I don't think that it's going to get named in the Australian region. That's kind of the talking point right now, but we'll just briefly brush over the forecast. I'll zoom out so you can compare it to how far away it's going to be offshore. It really doesn't get itself going at all into a tropical cyclone until maybe around Tuesday or so, when it's way out to sea, probably about halfway between the Seychelles and Australia. So it's a long way out to sea, and it's no threat to Australia, but you can see another tropical cyclone does look to spit itself out from the enhanced monsoon that we're seeing over here north of West Island, which is associated with this system, and that might end up being an Australian region cyclone threat next Wednesday, Thursday and Friday, but we'll be watching that quite closely, and that I do believe is reciprocated amongst the Access G3 model, with a tropical cyclone as well trying to form around the Australian region. Oh, I missed it. It happens actually up here in the Bonaparte Gulf near Darwin by around next Friday or so. But yeah, you can see tropical low 08U actually does get quite strong. We're probably talking a severe tropical cyclone at this point here by next Friday, and it really just, it doesn't do much, but it definitely does just hang there and sits around and looks pretty, I guess, close to West Island. In short, no Australian region threat. It's just going to sit there and kind of be a nuisance to track, I guess, because it's going to take time away or from the weather forecast. It's just going to take time away from all the other forecasts around Australia. But yeah, now I'll just briefly touch base with the tropical West Australian rain. They've already had quite a significant amount of rain overnight, and there's more coming today. Over the next 2 to 3 days, quite a lot of rainfall expected across the goldfields as we see a trough extend down the West Australian coastline. And just starting things off with a look at the satellite imagery, you can see an awful lot of lightning happening across Western Australia right now. It is definitely that week where we just see thunderstorm activity after thunderstorm activity after thunderstorm activity across Western Australia. It just looks like the lower west and the southwest is missing out pretty much completely on this storm activity. But we're definitely going to be seeing a year to a year and a half worth of rainfall across some of these desert communities. And it will be the first really significant amount of rainfall that these places have had in probably up to a decade for some locations. We're just going to get straight into this because it doesn't affect much people, but it is a good thing to just get covered because it does have big ramifications for rivers and dams as well across a lot of the wheat belt and also the Goldfields region. You can see it's just going to be pulse thunderstorm activity tonight and then throughout tomorrow and then into tomorrow night as well, Thursday night, and then it should contract a little bit further north by Friday night when we actually see a cold front move through the Perth metro area, which could fire some thunderstorm activity in front of it. That's going to be something we need to be watching. That is a welcome cool change, that's for sure. And then this kind of just joins into that cold front by Saturday and Sunday, and looks like we might see some organised thunderstorm activity Sunday night with the risk of supercells throughout the goldfields. And this thunderstorm activity just really moves through the wheat belt and also the goldfields and completely misses Perth, which is kind of heartbreaking to see, that's for sure. And there's no major forecast model that's calling for a significant amount of rainfall around the Perth area. They're all calling for it to remain in the goldfields. Now, the eastern relief and the access G3 are basically best buds in terms of the rainfall expected. Parts of the eastern goldfields expecting 400 millimetres as a top end rainfall prediction here. A lot of these locations will be receiving in excess of 100 millimetres. Expect flooding if you are a farmer in the eastern parts of the goldfields, the wheat belt, and then into the goldfields as well around Menzies, Kalgoorlie, Merredin, down towards Hyden, Lake Grey, Salmon Gums, Norseman, that sort of area, and then up towards Mount Magnet and Lanista. Expect significant rainfall. This is going to be a very wet week, that's for sure. There'll be dangerous thunderstorms around, and considering it will be thunderstorms, the rainfall will be hit and miss, of course. Very hard to predict where thunderstorms do end up dumping their fills. Anyways, that basically does it for this weather forecast. I thank you so much for watching this video, and I would love to give a special shout out to the channel sponsors on screen. This is a look at Radar Reef, November 5th, 2023, on Rottnest Island. That was a beautiful sunset. Gorgeous, gorgeous view, that's for sure, and would highly recommend checking it out. It's near West End. If you are in Perth, check out Rottnest Island because there are some great locations that you can go and have a good look at. And I did cite a comment yesterday regarding what was our boat name. Well, it's called South 32 because that is the latitude location rather of where it is parked. Anyways, thank you so much for watching this video, and I will catch you all in the next storm. Goodbye.